Welcome to Work from the Inside Out, a podcast that highlights real-life stories, practical strategies, and best practices for transitioning your career from unhappiness and dissatisfaction to fulfillment, meaning, and joy. Now here is your host, career and executive coach, Tammy Guler-Loeb.
Hey everybody, I am really excited to introduce my guest today, Jayne Mattson. Jayne is an author, consultant, and speaker with expertise in career management, relationship building, and confidence development. She inspires and motivates early to mid-career professionals to take charge of their careers, develop professional relationships, and build sustainable confidence for career and life success. She is a frequent writer contributor on career-related topics to CareerBuilder, Monster, CIO, Mashable.com, and print publications, including the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. Jayne conducts seminars and webinars on conveying confidence, presenting your best self, finding your voice, and developing relationships for career success. Jayne's published book is available on Amazon titled You, Me, You, The Art of Talking to People, Networking, and Building Relationships. Jayne holds a master's degree in management from Lesley University, a bachelor's in human resources from Northeastern University, and a certification from Dale Carnegie based on his principles in how to win friends and influence people. Please join me in welcoming Jayne Mattson. Hello, Jayne.
Hello there, Tammy. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good, and really happy to have you here. So, Jayne, thank you also for sending me your book. I had a chance to read it and really enjoyed it. So we're here to talk about work from the inside out, which I know you get because you and I do a lot of similar things in our work. And we talk about, how so many of us followed kind of a path, maybe something that we were encouraged to do by people who maybe meant well and said, you go to school, you study, you get a career, you do the same thing for 30 plus years, and then you retire, and that's a life. And you and I both know that things don't quite happen that way.
No.
But I also know that that your dad was a big influence in your life as well. So I'm curious to hear, about your career trajectory and all that you did. But I also want you to talk a little about your dad because I think he had a real special place in terms of your career and your developing your confidence and your professionalism and all that. So I'll leave it to you to tell us a little bit about yourself. And
that's wonderful. And thank you for the introduction. I love the way you said my book, You, Me, You. And also, of course, mentioning my father. My father, I actually dedicated the book to him. And yes, he was a major influence in my life. For a couple of reasons. Number one, he was a man that everybody loved. He was a man that treated everybody with kindness. He talked to everybody, and he just had the ability to draw people in through conversation and with compassion. And so he was someone that at a very, very young age, I gravitated towards. And also due to a tragedy also in my life of my mother dying at a very young age, the age of 13. So I gravitated more towards my father because of that loss.
Yes.
But at a very young age, and I can't even remember, it was so young, Tammy, I can't even remember, but he instilled in me confidence. And how he did that was anything I wanted to do, he would say, honey, of course you could do that.
That's right.
And he would just, for some reason, he was a very hyper man. And I have a lot of energy as well. And so with him, he would always use those three words. And I just always heard, of course you can do it. Of course you can do it. And so those words resonated throughout my whole life of course I can do it. And as a result, I know this may sound very weird and people may say, oh man, I'd love to have that. But I very rarely go through periods of self-doubt because I have this thing of, oh, honey, of course you can do it. So if there's something that has been presented to me with, can you do this? My immediate is, of course, I'll figure it out afterwards.
Right.
So that led me. So I had this foundation. I had this foundation of love, safety, and confidence. Now, that doesn't mean that there wasn't any internal, working from the inside out of sort of some messaging. And so you can imagine, as I said, with a tragedy early on in the life, of course, there were some things that along the way I needed necessarily to work on. But then he's this foundation going into a career. And, my first career was 23 years at a wonderful company. Medical device was a company called Millipore. I grew up there, got my education there. They paid for all the education. And I knew I never wanted to stay there the whole time. But just intuitively, I said, there's got to be more to this. And I left, as I call it, with an opportunity to ask for a package. Because back, 20-something, over 20 years ago, that companies were having layoffs. And at that time, being a long-term employee, you get to have a long severance. So I left and really figured out what is it that I want to do next. And what I wanted to do next was something that was more congruent, Tammy, with my values and also my skills. I was a trainer when I was at Millipore. I loved to manage and develop people. And that led me into starting my own business as a career consultant. And I had no experience. Once again, there's my father, honey, of course you can do it. And I just learned, I networked, I met with so many different people so that I could understand what did it really mean to be a consultant and what do I need to do? And I networked with wonderful people, and I found wonderful people on the way willing to mentor me, which led into an unbelievable 20-plus year career at an outplacement firm called Keystone. Okay, so that was wonderful. Did that for over 20 years. And then just last year, I left to do my next thing. And the next thing, the part of it was the book. I wanted to, I never was one that I said, I want to write a book. It just sort of came out of my passion to help people with understand what relationship building was all about. And many people did not know what it meant to build relationships. Too often people would focus on themselves first and not others. And that's where it came out with, no. It's really about you, Tammy. It's about you, Tammy. Then it's about me. Then it's about you.
Right. So I'm curious, the years that you spent at Millipore, you during that time you got your bachelor's and your master's. So you developed your interest in management and human resources while you were at Millipore.
Exactly. I did. Yeah, that's where.
I want to make sure we get this piece in here too, because I remember when we had our pre-interview, you mentioned that your dad gave you Dale Carnegie's book to read.
Oh, yeah. How could I forget that part of the story? Oh, my God.
And so I figured that was part of your getting that certification was that your dad gave you that book to read at 14, which I thought was really interesting. Because most people I know who read Dale Carnegie's book probably read it much later on in their lives. And so I'm a little curious what your dad said when he handed that book to you, and if that played a role in some of the choices you might have made going to work for Millipore or any of that. And then I'm also curious to know what made you decide that once things changed at Millipore, you decided to go out on your own.
And thank you so much for remembering the most important part of my father's story. So for the listeners, my father, at 14, 15, he came home one day and he handed me this book, and it's actually a picture is in the book. It was a tattered 1938 second revision of Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah.
He bought it at a flea market. And I don't know why, as my sister says, all of them, how come he gave it to you? I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe he thought I had the potential. But he gave me the book and he said, honey, if you read this book, you will always be successful. And so my father gave me a book. He told me if I read it. And so I read it at that very young age, but I didn't just read it that one year. I read it, I can remember, I don't know, like 3 years in a row. I would read it and apply the principles, because it is a book that clearly states it isn't a book you read. You read a chapter, you apply, your chapter apply. And so I read that book and I read it and applied the principles. And absolutely, it is definitely one of, the top 3 books that most influenced my life, because at a young age, to your point there, Tammy, at a young age. So then let's go fast forward.
Actually, wait, I'm curious, before you go there.
Yep.
How do you apply Dale Carnegie's principles as a teenager?
Oh my gosh. My dream would be to take a bunch of teenagers, if you're out there listening, it is really taking that book, reading it, and really applying the principles. So part of it is that you've got to have this belief of that this book is really a key to success. And I think one of the things is if you really genuinely like people, you have to genuinely and be curious. There's another part. So if you have a teenager that is naturally curious and naturally likes people, then you can say, hey, here is this book that is absolutely going to change your life. It's a book. So if you think about it, Tammy, that book today is still one of the best written and most recommended books on relationship building.
Yes.
So it's 1937 it was written. So it's about, there's something to be said about it.
Yeah.
There's something to be said about the true value of that book. And so with the relationship, all of the things that talked about in the book, of course, had the people aspect. It's about, win-win, and it's about, remembering people's special events, birthdays. And so birthdays is one of the big things in Dale Carnegie. It's a special day because it's you, remembering people's names. And so as I was out there developing it, people gravitate towards people that show interest in you.
Yes, right.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. So that it sort of traveled along, and most definitely it led me to say, this field of HR. Now, mind you, I have a degree in human resources, but I've never worked in HR.
Oh, interesting. But you did do learning and development a little bit at Millipore.
Nope.
Oh, no?
I didn't. So here's the deal with this, that I was never able to get into HR. That's, I guess, another part of my story of it was the message that I got was, I don't think you'd be really good in HR. And unfortunately, I kept on getting no. And I said, I know I'd be good. The universe said something better for me.
Interesting.
And that was really being a career management consultant and using my background, using what I learned, using the people part.
So what did you do at Millipore? Tell us just a little bit about that.
Well, so here's the career changer. I managed a quality assurance engineering documentation system.
Okay.
I could say, what the heck is that? It was the system that managed documentation, so process specs, SOPs. So it really, I worked in operations and in quality assurance. So it was people.
Yeah,
and it was
absolutely.
a service organization.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that has nothing at all to do with where I ended up. But it's all about the transferable skills.
Absolutely.
And that's what I did. I took the people part where I was successful managing, developing, and people were successful who worked for me. So I knew I had that ability. And then the training part, and then the quality systems part.
So you did training within the, you did training, but it wasn't under HR. It was, you had to train people in your area.
Yeah. And it was quality training. So I did a lot of stand-up training, training systems, training processes. So that, and developing training programs. So it's all about, the transferable skills. That's really, if anybody who wants to change a career, and, I'm a true career changer versus a shifter.
That's right.
There's shifters and changers, and I'm a true changer because I changed industries and jobs and functions.
Right. I like the way you say that too, about, a true career changer versus a shifter, because there is a difference,
Yes, there very much is.
It's one thing to take your skills and then apply them in another industry. It's another thing to literally change what you're doing too. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And so to continue with the thread, that when I did make the shift, I didn't have a clue what I wanted to do. And I actually had, in my original networking, and back over 20 years ago, 23 years ago, I had to network face to face with people because there was technology wasn't as attuned. And I met with 60 people face to face. And I remember that number. But it was my people skills, why people were willing to meet with me and continue to pass me on, because it's how I treated them in our time together.
You, me, you.
That's right. That's right. It's not all about me.
Exactly. And I know this is something that I tell people all the time, although I can't take credit for it. I don't know who said it, but somebody said, be interested, not interesting. And, and I think that's exactly what you're saying.
And that actually might have come from Dale Carnegie in some respects.
Oh, is it?
He absolutely, talks all about that. And that's really, he talks really, it's about, it's listening to someone else's point of view, listening to asking all sorts of questions. I just took a variation and simplified it with the title.
Right. Yeah. So you finish up at this very long career at Millipore. You're given this severance, and you have this opportunity to really make the most of this time. And it sounds like you were just ready to dive in and talk to people and explore and
what you
wanted to do next. But it also sounds like you already kind of had your mind moving in a certain direction. You really wanted to do this more, I guess, human resource type of work. As evidenced by the degrees that you were getting. You got the degree in management and the degree in human resources. Had you already done the certification in Dale Carnegie also?
Oh, no. So the certification, no. So I'll briefly tell you how that came to be. That when I was at Millipore, I did have the opportunity to go through a Dale Carnegie. All excited. Go to my first night, do my thing. The second week, they ended up canceling it because people, they didn't have enough people in the class, but also people chickened out because it's, the number one. Okay, so really fast forward. So about 5 years ago, maybe, I attended a Dale Carnegie freebie, like an hour and a half program. And so I attended it, and then I went up to the trainer and introduced. I said, I need to be working for Dale Carnegie. And I told them a little bit about the story. Well, because of my excitement and my passion for Dale Carnegie and the topic, he gave me a scholarship to attend an 8-week course.
That's fabulous.
And so I took, it was in the summer, I drove into Boston. It was after work, but it was awesome. So I finally got the chance to attend the course that I had been living for so long. And so I was able to go in a more formalized way. And once again, it was based on my passion, my interest, my curiosity. He said, we're going to get you in this class.
I love it.
I got a scholarship for that.
That's wonderful. That's fabulous. So you took some time, right, from Millipore before you went to Keystone.
Keystone, yes.
And you started your own business, it sounds.
Yes. I had to start my own business because I had to get some experience.
Yeah.
I had to, gain some experience. And I would practice on anybody who was willing to let me practice on them, my former boss, my family, because, there's assessments you had to do and resumes. And I can't tell you how many freebie talks I did. And, but it was all worth it because Keystone was my dream job. It was just the most unbelievable, wonderful, successful career. But like everything else, when I'm ready to move on, when I know that I've done all I can, there's another next trajectory in me, it's time for me to go.
Yeah.
And so I guess I want to just mention this. So I've made two big transitions in my life or career.
Yeah.
And I left both roles on my own. And I use it, I say, I left when I was in love with them and they were still in love with me.
Yeah.
And it takes confidence and courage. And so that confidence part plays a major role because you have confidence in your ability that you will find something else.
Right.
You will find something else.
Yeah.
Because I believe we're on this planet for too short of a period of time. Don't we want to do things that we value and things that we look forward to every day, getting up and doing something exciting?
I couldn't agree more.
Yes.
That's probably why you and I do some of the same things.
Yes, exactly.
So while you were at Keystone, you were working for the organization. You weren't doing any of your own work for your own, or
nope. So the only thing that I ended up doing on my own toward the latter part of maybe 5 years, 2013, 14, I founded an organization called CareerEngage. And it was a volunteer organization. I actually got the name trademarked as well because I just felt that I wanted to leave sort of a legacy for the younger, early to mid-career professionals. I wanted to help them with their careers because I knew that they would be challenged in a way that I never was challenged with, changing jobs on their own or not on their own, through layoffs, of them just them wanting more or wanting something different and not knowing clearly how to get there. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to give back. So I founded the organization with a group of millennials, because I believe we all need to have younger people in our network. And, we offered workshops and we offered mentorships. And it was wonderful, a way just to sort of give back. And now helping early to mid-career professionals is now part of my new business under my what I do now as an independent consultant.
Right. So does CareerEngage still operate or?
So good question. So right now it's rebranding myself under Jayne Mattson.
I see.
Jayne
okay.
Mattson. And under that is going to be the CareerEngage arm where I will be working with doing the career work.
I see.
And with the younger careers, it isn't just with career. It is with careers, but the work that I love best is with them, with their relationship building.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
right.
I can help with resumes and interviewing, and I still do that, but really it's more of how do you develop relationships for career success?
Right. Right. Very important. Very important.
Mhm.
So you are developing your own practice now. You've been doing it
Yes.
for a few years, it sounds like.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Mhm.
and you have your book and you still do some speaking, although right
Yes.
now none of us are doing much
I know.
live
I know.
speaking because of COVID. But so tell us what that's looking like today.
Yeah. And so, so I will absolutely, you know, say that with the COVID, it is so affected sort of everybody and what they do. And because I'm such a visual and I love the live audience, it has been challenging, of course, to get out there and speak about necessarily the book and about the principles. However, I have still found those opportunities to do that. I actually just 2 weeks ago spoke at Bryant University's Women's Summit, and it was
Nice.
a virtual summit, so that was really great. And so right now I am doing actually some volunteer work, which I always do, and it's around this particular topic. But what I'm working on is the offering of webinars on the book itself.
Okay.
On the book and the concepts of the book. So,
Right.
So the concept, the first part is relationship building, but then Tammy, we need to do virtual relationship building. Right. So there's that first part. Then there is the second part about how do you necessarily go about doing virtual.
Right.
It takes time. It takes effort.
Yeah.
But the end result, I can't stress enough that you will get so much more in return. So that's sort of what I've been working on is the rebranding and developing a couple of webinars in the career area.
Right. Right.
And, in the relationship, which is, as I said, primarily a lot about the components of the book.
Right. So you really are helping people to move forward through this very difficult period.
Oh, yes.
People make some of the adjustments they need to make. I mean, we've all been dealing with each other virtually already, but now the emphasis is so much more all the way through to the enormity of things like, all the virtual job interviews and all the things.
Absolutely.
Maybe have an initial phone interview or a video interview, but then you'd be called in for an interview. Now everything is virtual.
That's exactly. And you've got to, pay attention. You and I right now are doing this, we see each other, but, I don't have to worry so much. But, as we do, we need to look at the camera. And
Right.
The camera is that little light right in front of you. And so it's all about, I think what everybody needs to learn and continue to be a lifelong learner.
Yes.
Is how do we need to be adaptable in this virtual world?
Yeah.
Everything,
because it's going to continue, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so part of my goal, in which I was fortunate to be able to do with the virtual event, is to engage because, no one wants to sit and just listen to a speaker.
Right. Right.
I mean, you want to engage. So how do you engage people through the chat? Right. And so what questions to ask?
Right. Right.
So it is a challenge for everybody.
It's a brave new world, Jayne.
It is. And it's about, but let's all take charge, right? That's all we can do.
Right. No.
Take charge of our career, no matter where we are.
That's right.
And our life as well.
Right. That's right. So Jayne, if you were talking to someone right here and now today, and they were entertaining the idea of some kind of transition in their career, what would be a key piece of advice that you would give them?
Great question. So if anyone is thinking, is this a good time to make a shift? The answer is yes. And it is because it is shifting.
Yes.
And so the sheer nature that you're thinking of making a move, well, everything is moving. So the thing what I would say to people is you want to be paying attention to what's going on in the local news. So I had a phone call just, at 1:00 today with a client about the Boston Business Journal. So
Yes.
I'm a big believer in reading about as a research tool. There's no jobs in there. Understand what's going on. So part of it is understand the current landscape.
Yeah.
Understand what skills are going to be needed in that. So if you're thinking of I really like biotech.
Yeah.
Then, what are skills needed in the biotech world? So even as you look at job descriptions, look at what skills they're looking for. So you do your research. Then you're going to be thinking about the values. What values do you need to be met? And that's the culture question. You've got to understand it because everybody says, I want to work in an organization that's right for me.
That's right. Yeah.
And Tammy, too often people don't know what that is. So you got to explore that.
That's important. I'm glad you brought that up because I think that's the piece that a lot of people miss when they get hired somewhere. They go for the job and they get hired, but the culture piece isn't always the fit, and it can really be a problem.
It absolutely, and as a matter of fact, I'm writing. I have a draft of a blog article on corporate culture and how to really identify it for yourself. But more importantly, how do you develop the right questions? The right questions.
Great. And where will that blog piece show up?
That's going to be on my website.
Okay.
So I have a blog section of my website there.
Great. So I'm really glad that's going to be there because we'll put all of that in the show notes.
Good.
This episode by the time this episode is live, my guess is your blog piece will be up. So I am sure that people will be making a beeline for that. That's really important.
It's funny we're talking about this because I'm looking on. I have it's understanding corporate culture. I have the actual draft material that I'm working on for a webinar. So too funny that we're talking about that because that's another area where people often miss from the
and it's critical.
It is critical. I can't tell you enough. It's critical.
Yeah.
But to finish up, because I want to finish up this last part about what they need to do, and that's about the skills.
Yeah.
You've got to identify. I say to people, identify your top 3 functional skills, and so you're going to know what are the skills. Are they analytical? Are they process improvement? Are they facilitation? Are they speaking? Are they financial? Some in the financial, because you got to identify them and then identify accomplishments with it.
Right.
And then where can you use those functional skills in what industry? What industry will find of value? And I'll say, do not start applying for jobs. That's not the way to do it first. Because you're not going to get anywhere, and you're going to be discouraged and disappointed. So that's not the way you want to be doing it.
Yes, I agree. You have to really know who you are, right? And then how you want to show up before you just start putting yourself out there.
Absolutely, because if you really want the right job, then you've got to make sure you know what that looks like when it's presented to you.
Right.
And so that there's those things it's all about when our values, our skills, and our interests are all aligned. We're typically career satisfied, and then you can go to work each day feeling happy.
Yeah. What a concept, Jayne.
I know, exactly.
Well, Jayne, this has been incredibly helpful. I'm really excited for my listeners to hear this and for them to find you. So what is the best way for them to find you?
Well, I love that question. LinkedIn. So I'm very active on LinkedIn. And if anybody wants to link in with me,
okay.
I am quality, not quantity.
Okay.
So I am not going to link in if you just send me a connection, because that doesn't tell me anything.
Right.
Tell me why you want to connect with me.
Okay.
Tell me really, really why. And I always welcome a phone call to set up afterwards. So LinkedIn is definitely
phone call. Wow. Do people still use the phone?
I know. Well,
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I tell my clients all the time to use the phone only because I think it helps them to stand out.
Well, of course it does. Of course it does. They're going to hear your voice. They're going to, it's going to be making another connection. So LinkedIn, and then of course you can reach me at jaynematson.com.
Yeah.
And for the listeners, it's Jayne with a Y.
Yes.
Very important. And then also my website of the same, www.jaynematson.com.
And that'll be all in the show notes. So
excellent.
It'll be properly spelled in the show notes. Everyone will have a link to your book and to all your social media handles. And
wonderful.
We'll be able to find you. And be sure that if you want to connect with Jayne on LinkedIn, tell her why. Maybe also reference this podcast that you heard.
Even better for Tammy.
Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for wanting to listen to my story. That means so much. And I want to thank you for the work that you're doing. Keep it up. It's really great.
All right. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed my interview with Jayne Mattson. It was so interesting to speak with her to learn about her professional journey. What is your key takeaway from our interview? If you are interested in any of the resources or links mentioned in this podcast, you can find them on the blog page of my website at tammygoolerloeb.com. Just look for episode 090. Are you thinking about what your next professional move is going to be? Perhaps there was a thought or idea that was sparked by listening to today's podcast that you'd like to put into motion in your life. Or maybe you're just feeling a little stuck. Get specialized group and individualized support, insights, and accountability from a brilliant mix of professional women in a safe, non-judgmental creative space. Join one of my small hybrid mastermind coaching groups. They're starting now on a rolling basis. You can learn more at bit.ly/navigating career change. That's bit.ly/navigating career change. If you were inspired by this episode with Jayne, please share it with your friends and colleagues. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss next week's show. Remember, subscribing is always free. If you're enjoying the podcast, I would love to read your review on Apple Podcasts. It's easy to find through my website at tammygoolerloeb.com/podcast. Just click on the Apple Podcast button and follow the instructions provided there. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, it is never too late or too impossible to increase your sense of fulfillment and satisfaction in your work and other meaningful activities. Let me know how it's going for you. And who knows, maybe you'll be my next interview on this podcast. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to the Work from the Inside Out podcast. For more information, you can find us at www.workfromtheinsideout.com.